Hey guys, we have a late evening update here from Bryson Boom Paul. Really appreciate how prompt he is with updates in this case and always has been. Now, we had this kind of abrupt, but maybe not so surprising news this morning that the state decided to drop charges, the witness tampering charges against Jamell Demons, a.k.a. YNW Melly. Well, I didn't really have much information this morning. I just said that that's what happened. And I gave my own speculation. The last thing I saw on the docket was the defense saying they were going to call Mariah Hamilton as a witness. And then we knew from the hearing earlier this month that the judge made some rulings that was going to keep some stuff out and also deferred on rulings. Hey, during the trial, as you're laying a foundation, maybe I'll decide then. And the state was like, hey, our case really depends on this. So I thought it'd be interesting, more than just a quick update to share as a community post. I wanted to go live and read through this with you guys. I haven't read it yet because I want to see how the state puts this in their own words. Why are they deciding to null pros these witness tampering charges? So from Bryson, his summary here, of course, this is the state of Florida. This is Broward County versus YNW Melly. This is the witness tampering case. So, ASA, Alixandra, Buckelew, and the Broward State Attorney's Office have issued their memo explaining the decision to drop the witness tampering charges against YNW Melly, whose real name is Jamell Demons, at today's status hearing. In the 5-page memo, the prosecutors dropped the witness tampering case against Jamell Demons to avoid jeopardizing key jail call evidence, essential to proving consciousness of guilt in his pending double murder trial. The state moved to drop the case because suppression of jail calls remains unresolved, risking acquittal and loss of critical evidence needed for the 2027 homicide trial. Prosecutors charge YNW Melly with witness tampering and gang-related offenses tied to the efforts to keep key witness Mariah Hamilton from testifying in this double murder case. We're going to read all these details here, but that's a quick little summary. We're going to read it in full. And first page here. Let me see if I can open this as an image, make it bigger for you guys. So obviously you see all the named parties. So you've got Harold Pryor, you've got Alex. Again, this was today. You've got the Chief Assistant State Attorney, Gina Falk, and also from the Homicide Trial Unit, Steven Zakor, CC'd in here. The defendant here is Jamell Demons. This is the list of the charges. Remember, 2 was going to be severed for the initial trial at least. And then they start with their version of the facts. So if this had proceeded to trial, this summary here from the state is what they would have argued in their case. So the defendant is charged with 1 count of tampering with a witness in capital felony, directing the criminal activities of a gang, solicitation to commit tampering, and conspiracy to commit tampering. These charges stem from the defendant's original case, in which he's currently charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder with a firearm. The above captioned charges arose during the defendant's homicide trial that took place between April 10th and July 22nd of 2023, and the footnote says that ended in a hung jury. Mariah Hamilton was listed as a witness for the state of Florida as of April 9th, 2019. Pursuant to her request, her address was not listed in the discovery filing. And let's get to the next page. The state agreed to accept service on her behalf. Ms. Hamilton subsequently became uncooperative with the prosecution, and this is kind of tiny. And can you guys hear me? It just gave me an audio error over on StreamYard. So if you guys can't hear me, let me know. Well, or if you can hear me, let me know. And if you can't, I guess I'll see you guys say I sound muted. So the state agreed to accept service on her behalf. Ms. Hamilton subsequently became uncooperative with the prosecution of the defendant. Thank you, guys. Thank you. The StreamYard, every couple of days, they seem to be giving that error, even though my audio is fine. So, also, thank you, FFS, for becoming a member. Is this a new profile? Because you got a lot of numbers now. Thank you for becoming a member again. I know you've been a member for like a million years. And then Mike G, good to see you, says night shift cat and chat. That's right, we're doing 3rd shift today. Thank you so much for being a member for 8 months. All right, so efforts were made to contact Ms. Hamilton, including phone calls not only to her, but to her mother and attorney, as well as having an investigator from the 18th Judicial Circuit State Attorney's Office attempt to serve her for both deposition and trial. And remember, we've talked about this in the Courtney Clenny case, but it seems like Florida does a lot more with depositions for criminal trials than I'm used to hearing. In other states, deposition, my mind typically goes to civil trial, civil cases. Let's see. We've got the Honorable Judge Andrew Siegel signed an order to show cause, and on February 23rd, 2022, signed a certificate to procure a witness for Miss Hamilton. Miss Hamilton never appeared for a deposition nor for trial. This certificate to procure Mariah Hamilton remained active from February 23rd, 2022 until January 26, 2025, when she was finally caught by Border Control coming back from El Salvador. Detective Danny Polo, everybody's favorite masked detective on the witness stand from the Broward Sheriff's Office, is a listed witness in the homicide case as well. In 2023, Detective Polo was investigating James Howard in an unrelated statewide prosecution case and would periodically listen to jail calls made by Mr. Howard as he was incarcerated at the Broward County Main Jail. Each inmate is assigned a particular number and PIN code to access the recorded and monitored jail phone system. Jamell Demons does not have phone privileges due to disciplinary actions while in custody. Detective Polo, while monitoring the calls of James Howard, heard discussions about Howard communicating with Mr. Demons and passing messages. These phone conversations then led to Detective Polo requesting, in August of 2023, Broward County Sheriff's Office Detention Communications Supervisor Kathleen Casey to provide any and all calls from James Howard for the previous 12 months, as well as all outgoing calls to the following numbers. So they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers here. Based upon a review of the calls, it was determined Mr. Howard was talking with numerous individuals connected to the defendant, including Cortland Henry, the defendant's co-defendant on the homicide case. These calls made it clear Mr. Howard was calling on behalf of the defendant. Well, and that's pretty vague. So they're just saying these calls made it clear. Just in and of itself, these calls make it clear that this was happening at the behest, the demand of Jamell Demons of YNW Melly. Further, when reviewing what PIN numbers made outgoing calls to those phone numbers provided, it was determined that inmate Terrence Mathis made more than 60 phone calls to Cortland Henry between March 2023 and August 2023. The Broward Sheriff's Office reviewed footage of the main jail from August 21st, 2023, and observed the defendant speaking to an inmate through his cell door. The defendant motions, and is there audio? I wonder if there's audio in that video. The defendant motions towards the adjacent unit, and the inmate he was speaking to points towards the same unit to confirm what the defendant was referring to. The defendant then tosses what appears to be a letter under his cell. So this is what we heard about the kite being sent. So the defendant then tosses what appears to be a letter under his cell door to the inmate. And remember, the defense wanted access. They wanted to go look at this area where everybody was like YNW Melly's cell. Would this even be possible as it's being presented? And the judge granted that, or the state said they wouldn't oppose it and that they'd help work with the sheriff's office to set it up. So this inmate tosses the letter, along with what appears to be others, under the door that leads into the other unit they both pointed to. The defendant appears to be instructing the inmate to call for someone in that adjacent unit, to which the inmate complies. Deputies also reviewed the video footage from the adjacent unit and observed the letters begin to appear. An inmate retrieves the letters and provides them to James Howard. Mr. Howard is observed reading the letter and walking towards the phone to make a call. On video, James Howard is observed making a call that matches up with the calls made by him to Cortland Henry and the defendant's girlfriend, Erin Barnett. The videos and calls demonstrate the sophisticated system the defendant developed to communicate with individuals outside of the jail due to having his phone privileges revoked. Now, one thing that I've always been curious about with this is, if this is exactly as it's going down, is this the reason someone would have felt intimidated and wouldn't have wanted to testify in another proceeding? Or is it just relaying a message? On April 19th, 2023, Terrence Mathis places a phone call to Cortland Henry and begins to relay messages. After a few messages to individuals to thank them for showing up to support him in court, the following exchange occurs between Mr. Henry and Mr. Mathis. So Mathis says, "Tell you, hit Rihanna, make sure she hood, tell her keep vibing in the Maybach like she been doing, don't pop out this shit, almost over with. I heard she supposed to be pulling up, probably cap though, but tell her." And then Henry says, "Man, no man, tell him, man, shut the fuck up, tell him to stop talking about that." Mathis says, "Tell her fall bike? Fall bike? Okay. Maybe fall back?" I ain't put this wild ass shit, fall bike. So we just spell bike, okay. Fall bike? Is that like code? It's fall back, right? Or am I just not, is it over my head? Henry says, "Man, I ain't talking no more about that. Move on to the next one." Mathis says, "Hold on. I gotta read the whole card. I don't know what's next. What's what. Tell her keep doing what she's doing. Tell her I love her and miss her so much. I'm going to eat her like some ice cream when I touch down." All right, so he's got to relay this part that I'm going to eat her like some ice cream on behalf of his fellow inmate. During this call, while Mathis is trying to give directions to Cortland Henry about keeping Rihanna away from court, Henry is obviously uncomfortable. And first of all, is this all it takes for someone to hold it down, to make sure they don't testify against you? Is that all it takes? Is that all it takes? Hey, fall bike. Hey, if we say bike too many times, we're going to have to listen to that red bike basket metaphor from two of Simone Hilton that we know of's closing arguments. During this call, while Mathis is trying to give directions to Cortland Henry about keeping Rihanna away from court, Henry is obviously uncomfortable, and they should specify their theory on this interpretation of Rihanna, because this sounds crazy if they're not going to contextualize their theory on why they're using the name Rihanna. Henry is obviously uncomfortable and does not want those directions being given over the recorded call. Henry already knows his job of keeping her away from court, and there is no reason to continue to talk about it. Henry states, and this is the same line we just read, right? "Tell him Rihanna already vibing in the Maybach. I don't know where he be getting his information, but just tell him to vibe though." Henry is telling Mathis to reassure Demons that everything is under control in reference to keeping her away from court. On April 24th, 2023, Mr. Demons, through third parties, again references Rihanna by calling her A$AP Rocky's baby mama. Popular recording artist Rihanna has been in a relationship with another recording artist known as A$AP Rocky. The conversation about Miss Hamilton again mentioned her, and dang, A$AP Rocky's name apparently can't stand on its own. We've got to keep his name in quotes and just say, yeah, that's Rihanna's guy. Miss Hamilton again mentioned her and told Mr. Henry to make sure A$AP Rocky's baby mama is in the Maybach, and she stays that way. During the course of the conversations, Mr. Henry tells the in-custody messengers to slow down, and at times they have to repeat the messages, or they describe specific emoji characters, or even spell certain words in a particular way. Mr. Henry on occasion mentioned that he was typing the message so he can later text it to the people Demons wanted him to communicate with. And this single spacing, that's why it's 5 pages, but it's single space. So we've got a lot here. The defendant, Mr. Henry, Mr. Mathis, and Mr. Howard have all identified as gang members under Florida statute. Oh, wait, is he on? Hey, Jim. Oh, we got to do a Jimception. The defendant's cell was searched along with Terrence Mathis's and James Howard's. The evidence was in the form of paper kites, in which inmates passed back and forth as a form of communication. 8 pieces of paperwork kites were, and I feel like we've already gone through these notes, so I feel like we could have contextualized that when we first started talking about the passing. But okay. So they find 8 pieces of paperwork kites located in Demon's cell on September 22nd, 2023. 7 kites were located in Mathis's cell, and 8 kites were located in Howard's cell on September 1st, 2023. The investigating detectives were able to determine the following nicknames on the kites. Old School Zoe belongs to Demons, Nike Ways belongs to James Howard, and Brakaya? I don't know. That's my best guess. Belongs to Terrence Mathis. These identifications were made based off context of the message written in the kites, as well as jail calls that were read on Demon's behalf. A search warrant was later conducted on Cortland Henry's residence. Several devices were located, and one device belonging to Cortland Henry's girlfriend, Genevieve Molina. Miss Molina had Mariah Hamilton saved as a contact under the name Ree. So there we go. Now we're getting like the tie of this nickname. Although I would argue that's not strong enough because Ree or Rye, depending on how you want to read it, Rye could be a nickname short for Mariah. Rye. There were numerous communications found between them. These conversations included discussing Miss Hamilton, staying with Miss Molina and Mr. Henry during the trial period, as well as commentary about the trial as it aired live on YouTube. At one point, Miss Hamilton acknowledges that she has an arrest warrant, a material witness warrant, out for not appearing. Additionally, Miss Hamilton asks Miss Molina if she has to fall off the grid again after the hung jury verdict, and Miss Molina says yes, she does. So then we get financial records. So, financial records were obtained for Mariah Hamilton, which showed she received $31,743.74 from 100K Management LLC, which is Melly's management company, $700 from Jamie King, and $947 from Adria Scott, the Melly's manager's wife. A specific $11,000 wire transfer from 100K Management was sent to Miss Hamilton with the memo stating, "From Melly." Well, I mean, this doesn't seem like the way to go about sending your sus payments for something you're not supposed to be doing. You just write "from Melly" with the thing that you're not supposed to be doing. It's nefarious, but sign my name to it. Don't use my nickname, though. I mean, don't use my double nickname. Use my a.k.a., my artist name. But don't use my kite nickname. Old school Zoe. Just write "from Melly." Like, okay. Jim, if you want to pop up, you can pop up. Drop the link there for Jim. So we've got, let's see, where was I? Additionally, detectives reviewed payments made to Auto Express Enterprise Inc. from Mariah Hamilton via Jamie King, the defendant's mother. On October 26, 2020, Mariah Hamilton purchased a used 2015 Mercedes-Benz CLA Class Coupe. This is 2 years after Jamell Demons was arrested for the aforementioned homicide. This purchase was for the amount of $22,973.826, with $1,000 as a down payment. When Mariah Hamilton purchased the vehicle, she was requested to provide references for this vehicle. One of the references was that of Jameson Francois, a.k.a. Track, who at the time was Jamell Demons' record label manager. Another person on the reference sheet is Adria Scott. So, like, again, this seems like, oh my gosh, they're all connected. Let me get Jim up here. Hey, Jim.
Hey.
Make sure I got 2 people here. Is this the right one? Yeah. There we go. So I'm at the part where we're talking about, and this is the state's words, you guys, right? This isn't like somebody summarizing what they think the state, this is the state's own words. And the state's, to me, this is like they all know each other, it's nefarious, but it also seems like they're doing nothing to be secretive about it if this is what they're using to suggest some secret plot to intimidate a witness.
Yeah. Very,
very out in the open.
From Melly for witness tampering. It'd be funny if there's a memo line that just said that.
Yeah. Like anytime you cash app someone from now on, just put "for witness tampering." Oh my goodness. Or Venmo. Is Venmo the one that shows like the line items publicly?
Yeah, I hate that. Why
you gotta do it on Venmo. Also, touche, thank you here. And I gotta make sure this doesn't hide. How do we make this? There we go. It's a little better. It says, I was watching Happily Angry Lawyer on JSTV. Shout out to that collab. And was struck again by what he has done and how big of a difference he's made for Munk Tunk. Simply because it's the right thing to do. Shout out to him. Yeah, so when are you going to become a, licensed attorney in Georgia? Just going to take the dive.
I think I had to register in March for the July exam. I really don't want to do the exam, though. I got to learn, like, business organizations and family law again. I forgot all of that stuff the day I took the bar. I feel like I
Well,
should just be. I've explained this before. I feel like if you pro hoc in and you win a case, or you like get a reduction in
you should
sentence,
just get a bar card.
yeah, because like the whole point of bar, like passing the bar, is to protect clients from people who don't know what they're doing. And if you like win something, like in my case, I got like a 10-year sentence reduction, so I protected the client from an unfair outcome. So like, it makes sense that I should get one of the tests. Like, actually succeeding in courts is the best test, a more accurate test than a bar examination.
It makes sense. I think that's a good standard. And then there's also a lot of changes being made. I think in Florida, I just saw an update where they're going to expand, the board you don't have to take the bar exam to become a licensed and practicing attorney in Florida. You can have a board just like grant you the permissions. And I saw that they're expanding, or it seems like they're going to become more liberal with who they grant the permission to practice to. So, but Georgia is a bar card state.
Yeah,
Thank you again, Touche. Thank you again.
yeah. Thank you for that.
So this is the time. So yeah, and good question here. Why isn't anybody else charged? Like, how is 100K never charging anything? You would think that maybe it's because Demons is the one actually charged, right? So it's witness tampering. It's something that he's being charged with. But if the state wanted to prosecute any of these individuals, they'd find some statute to do so. They've got, so we got to Jameson Francois, a.k.a. Track, who was Jamell Demons' record label manager at the time. Another person on the reference sheet is Adria Scott, the wife of Jameson Francois, again, doing a great job hiding who this is trickling down from. These individuals are listed as, quote, manager, so they're not hiding who they are on the reference sheet. Also, while reviewing financial data associated with the witness tampering case, it was determined that Mariah Hamilton had no wage and earnings for the year 2020 when she purchased the Mercedes-Benz. What if she just wasn't reporting?
Also, like, she has a rich boyfriend. She's like, she just needs a job. Like, it's a rapper buying his girlfriend a car. Like, that's a very financially responsible one too.
Yeah,
Like,
22,000. So that, yeah. And I don't know, she's referring to these individuals as manager. It's her putting them on the reference sheet. So like, what if she was doing like appearances, club promotions, like nightlife type stuff, influencers type stuff, and calling them her manager because she was trying to set up some type of like income, a stream
yeah,
of revenue. So it's Mariah here that would have listed these individuals as manager in relation to her on her reference sheet. So
yeah. I don't. This seems very normal to me. If there's like a financial fraud case where she's not actually, they're not actually her manager, like, okay, fine, that's not a thing. But
well, then
it's
they
like
don't
a
pursue it.
rapper's
It's not about
manager's,
her.
like, yeah, like a rapper's manager is helping the rapper's girlfriend finance a car. That seems incredibly mundane. And again, this was years before the alleged um misconduct. In the
Yeah,
first paragraph, it says,
October 26, 2020.
yep,
So
getting a 2015 is ridiculous.
while reviewing the payment information for the Mercedes-Benz, Mariah Hamilton was making the payment via Cash App to Auto Express LLC. Well, I mean, take up
Read it.
the issue with the LLC then. Okay, and then page 5, you guys. So this is the final page. So payments were made from Mariah Hamilton in the amounts of $250 to $540. Hey, that's enough to pay for a copy of a transcript in the YSL civil forfeiture case. On June 5th, 2021, and then a payment of $1,620 was made to Auto Express LLC on behalf of Mariah Hamilton by Jamie King. This PayPal transaction gives Jamie King's name, and they put her email. And then this is their analysis. So to me, this memo just seems like they knew this was going to be read and everybody was looking for it, and they wanted to reiterate how nefarious all of this was. Yet they don't think it's nefarious enough to pursue taking it to trial. That if we're getting through 4 single line space pages and then this is all we're getting for an analysis and why we're dropping it, our point is to make this memo to yell out the bad facts to the public. That's how I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
So their analysis of the case. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, the last part, like even the thing with the money from Jamie to, it seems like she just made. It looks to me like Mariah probably got behind on her car payments, and
And has she helped
Jamie,
him out?
she paid like, what was that 540 times three is 1620, so that's 3 months worth of payments, and it's like her boyfriend's mom helped her out with the car payments. Again, this seems like very very mundane.
A car payment that they put names down,
Yeah,
and they didn't use like fake names. I don't know. And like, I don't know, putting someone down as a reference, saying that they're a manager, it's like, all right, sometimes you need references. It's up to the
yeah,
underwriter to decide, I'm going to finance this car to you.
yeah.
And it was underwritten clearly because she had the car and was making payments. So they say here, oh, the defendant filed motions requesting. So, oh no, what happened here? The defendant filed motions. That's really the loud part right here. I think that's how I'm looking at that.
How dare he?
They get into all of these. This is what we think looks so bad. And then the issue is that the defendant filed motions requesting the court suppress the jail calls. The court indicated it would not rule on the admissibility of those calls until the state presented its case at trial. The state is entitled to a ruling on dispositive issues prior to trial and cannot go forward without those calls, as it is the basis for the charges. So they're blaming this on the judge. Not having a ruling puts this critical evidence at risk. Should that evidence be suppressed after a jury is sworn, the state would have no appellate rights, and further, an acquittal would impair the presentation of this evidence during the homicide trial. 15 months after the charges were filed, Mariah Hamilton was located and has made it clear she will be a hostile witness for the state. Well, it seems like they didn't think about this until the defense filed a supplemental witness list with her on it.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack here. Now that I'm listening to you read it instead of me reading it myself, I'm seeing more stuff.
I do that.
Like,
I do the same thing.
it's like 15 months after the charges were filed, she was located. So, I mean, she didn't have any obligation to. You never actually served her with a warrant, but it made it clear she'll be a hostile witness for the. She was always going to be a hostile witness for the state. You're trying to put her boyfriend in prison. Like, how did you think this was going to go? You're just now discovering this. Like, she doesn't like you. She never liked you. You should know from the beginning she was going to be hostile. Also, I don't understand how an acquittal would impair the presentation of this evidence during the homicide trial. I mean, you can still present the evidence. I don't really see how there's a relationship between. They're separate cases, right?
Sorry, say that one more time. Which other case?
The last sentence of the first paragraph.
All
Should that
right,
evidence be
so
suppressed, the state would have no appellate rights. An acquittal would impair the presentation of this evidence during the homicide trial. Like, I don't really understand.
because they're assuming that the defense at the homicide trial, if they wanted to use witness intimidation as consciousness of guilt in the homicide trial, which seems
Yeah,
like that's going to be a strong thing they're leaning on.
yeah,
Like, you must have done this. We don't have enough evidence to convince a jury of 12, or we're worried that we don't. So we want to be able to introduce you trying to get somebody not to talk. So it looks like
yeah,
consciousness of guilt, and we'll have a stronger chance and not risk a hung jury with this second trial. So this to me
yeah,
just seems like they want this conviction because they're worried about the projection of the homicide trial without something else.
yeah. I
That's
do
how I'm
think.
reading that sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what they're saying, but I think even with an acquittal, they could still bring it in, even though that's not really fair because it's a separate case with separate evidence. So I think they still could have brought it in even if there was an acquittal. I'm also missing something. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they could have brought it in, but I would say that the defense would
Yeah,
have it on their side that
yeah,
the
sure.
jury disagreed. So open that door, state. Like,
Yeah,
if you want to talk about a prior, you tried him for that. So, and then they have 15, or they could probably motion eliminate and not have it included at all. But either way, whether it be discussed at the homicide trial or it be kept out, I think there's a greater chance that that would be a win for the defense. And there's apparently a fear, based on the way this is worded, on the state's part, that they need this for the homicide case. And quite frankly, the homicide case was charged before this witness intimidation. The witness intimidation necessarily arises out of this homicide investigation and prosecution taking place. So you shouldn't need something that comes about after the fact to help you prove the thing you're charging in the first place. So to me, that's not a good look. This looks to me very like they're not confident in a retrial.
Yeah, no. I mean, the more time passes, I think jurors, rightly so, will be more and more skeptical of memories. And, and also you always have the risk of anytime you have a retrial, you can cross based on what people testify to in the first trial. And people are their memories are going to change. You're going to get inconsistencies.
Well, and even people become unavailable, like people pass away or, like.
Danny Polo. No, I'm not going to make a joke. Never mind.
Well, did we read the middle one? 15 months after the charges were filed, Mariah Hamilton was located and has made it clear she will be a hostile witness for the state. And this case is set for trial on January 21st, 2026. The homicide case is set in January of 2027. The evidence in this case is significant consciousness of guilt. So we should have just read this because that explains everything we were analyzing here.
Yeah.
That the homicide case is set in January of 2027 and that this is significant consciousness of guilt that will be utilized against the defendant in the homicide trial. And so that leads me to my question of, are you going to trot Howard in there? Are you going to trot Mathis in there at the homicide trial and make to me, this seems like you'd be introducing a side story at the trial of this witness intimidation, which if you strongly feel, to me, I think this is a distraction. And again, this is us reading the way the state's wording the facts. What we just read in this document is the storyline that the state would have put forth in front of the jury for the witness tampering trial had it started. Yeah. And to me, this is like, imagine from what we've seen from Attorney Carey so far, and then Drew Findling, imagine the cross-examinations on any witnesses that would present this information.
Yeah.
Like, how did you determine that these kites were all about this?
Yeah, I mean, if this is the best you have, and this is the best evidence that they're putting in this memo, you know what I mean? Like, this is the strongest case. Like, it's just not very convincing to me. I mean,
I think it's better for them. I think it'd be wise for the state to not even try to bring this in at trial. It's going to look like I think it's going to look like a flop to a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. If he had put a hit out on somebody, that would be one thing. But most of the stuff doesn't sound
24 M's.
Don't get me started. Man, I generally hate consciousness of guilt evidence, unless it's like destroying evidence. But
which happens that's like directly tied to the transaction that's charged. If you're destroying evidence of the thing you're charged for, that's like close-knit relationship between the two actions. It's not months apart, several kites where this is the only way that somebody can communicate.
Yeah.
And you suddenly drop this because the defense filed a bunch of motions, several were granted. And Noah says, I won't be surprised if the trial doesn't begin in January 2027 and is delayed again. Sorry. I lost Jim there. Pressing the wrong buttons. If I'd want this to go to trial. If I was Melly, I would file a request again for a speedy trial. I would say I'm ready for trial, and I'd want them to move it along. It's approaching 8 years of incarceration here.
Yeah, I can't imagine Judge Fine would even. I think if somebody mentions continuing again, he's going to explode.
Yeah, and Noah, so I feel like I'm yelling at my screen. I'm not yelling at you, Noah. I'm like, your comment is making me think, but I agree that the state very well could try this delay, in spite of the fact that I think the judge would be pissed off about it.
My dog hates delays. Yeah, Aaron said he might implode. So there's a disagreement between Aaron and I as to whether he would implode or explode. but he would be unhappy nonetheless.
Uh,
Aaron also said there could also be some concern now that Findling is lead counsel rather than Raven Liberty, who I've spoken about
I
at
think
some
they
length. I think that's
did.
true.
Carrie is a big part of the reason why I was so interested on the hearing from January 5th earlier this month. And I think she did a phenomenal job. I was upset that the microphone, the audio quality sucked because
She's terrifying.
she was like spitting fire up there, calm, concise, very like grandmotherly, but she was spitting fire up there. So,
Yeah, she's scary.
also,
Yeah, I know Findling is very good at staffing his cases with. I would be surprised if he brought in somebody else as well.
anyone in the chat, if you got, and it's linked in the description as well for Replay Crew, if you use X, there is a link to Bryson Boom Paul's, it's to the thread specifically on this update here. But he's done great coverage since
Yeah,
the inception of this case, and he covers other cases as well. I have so much respect for him for his prompt updates. Again, this is 7:30 at night and he at Eastern time, and he was checking and saw that this came through, and still shared it. So go show him some love, get his algorithm going. Also, I pulled this up. It was just a statement from Melly's attorneys today. So Drew Findling and Carol, who goes by Carrie, Howote, and I'm so scared to say her last name if you can't tell. Hogwoot. Hogwoot.
Hogwarts.
I've got
He's a wizard.
Hogwarts. Carrie Hogwarts have released the following statement to XXL about the update in the case. So, on behalf of Jamell Demons, we welcome the dismissal of the alleged tampering and gang-related charges in court this morning. As his newly retained legal team, it became immediately apparent to us that no crimes had occurred. Unfortunately, for 652 days while these charges were pending, the state did not reach the same conclusion until the cusp of trial.
Talk that shit, Drew.
Thank you, Chicken Shape, for the 5 gifted subs.
That's
yeah,
so
this
sassy.
is
That's something I would
spicy.
write. I love it.
This is spicy. The cusp of trial.
Oh
The
yeah,
statement...
Ashley. That's right. Ashley. Oh, sorry. In the chat, Ashley said I went to the appeals hearing in West Palm Beach. She was awesome. Yeah, I knew Ashley. I forgot about that. I knew you went to that hearing.
Oh, with Carrie was doing.
Yeah.
Oh, love that, Ashley. Love that. Love that. So the decision behind them dropping it's really 4 pages of them reciting their case, because I believe they knew that memo would be a subject of public interest. And then like a paragraph and 2 sentences about, but the defense filed motions and we're scared about the integrity of the homicide case. That's my read of it. So we read through the final analysis like 5 minutes ago at this point. That's how I look at it. And I'm telling you, like, I think they'd have a stronger case in the homicide if they don't go down these side stories.
Yeah.
I think the side stories are going to be a credibility issue for the state if they get too wound up in stupid things. Analyzing a lyric, Murder on My Mind, well, that song was obviously about the murders that are the subject of this homicide trial. I think you're going to lose people if you try to argue that.
Yeah, I would not in a million years bring up the song.
They're going to do it. They're going to do it unless there's a motion in limine telling them, no, you can't do it.
It's such a bad idea. If it's the cherry on top of your prosecution sundae, which is a weird flavor of sundae, like, okay, fine. But like, if you're relying on it as part of the substance of your case, I feel like that's going to backfire. Maybe 5-10 years ago, people would have bought that stuff, but I think sentiments are beginning to turn, especially given that it was years before the event. I mean, I assume most of you guys know this, but it was years before the homicide in question. So,
Yeah, and I'm a big fan. I mean, I always forget the one case people bring up where there was a guy who like wrote out word for word some murder that he did, and like they used the lyrics against him at trial, but it was very specific.
Yeah.
And specificity, particularity makes the difference. But like a vague thing about like, what was the lizard walk lyrics, or what were the lyrics in YSL?
I can't tell you because they are potentially incriminating one of my clients.
Oh,
Make it
oh
rain at the
yeah.
top of the drop.
Yeah, there was a Mungtung mention in one of those. Also, guys,
We
before I
deny
forget,
all allegations.
make sure you follow Jim, whose link is dropped in the chat now. So I should have done that when you joined. This statement continues. We now look forward to seeking Mr. Demons' release from custody, where he's been held under extraordinarily restrictive conditions for far too long, based on premises the state is now abandoned. So when you have a witness intimidation charge, it's going to go against you. You're not going to convince a judge to let you out. I think that type of charge bars the availability of bond across the board in several states. But now it seems like this is a signal that they're going to re-argue for release.
I would
Uh,
imagine so, especially how badly I know for a fact that I think Raven Liberty's mishandling of the bond situation was the last straw for Melly. I know that was did some independent reporting on that one. I know for a fact that was a big deal for the family, for Mother's family. And as it should be. She completely dropped the ball. She made up law. She copy and pasted non-existent law. It was completely mishandled. And I think Drew's absolutely gonna move for bond.
yeah, and
And
I'll be excited to see that come across the docket. I mean, I think it'll be interesting. It's just been so long in custody. This witness tampering, these charges are dropped. And like, is the state going to argue at the next bond hearing? But he intimidated witnesses, but you just dropped.
yeah, and just to be clear, like this case, it carried a life sentence, not a death penalty. But if he'd been convicted on this case, he would have been eligible for a life sentence because the underlying felony is
The
a murder
capital.
case. So it's not like this is. I mean, I guess it's somewhat of a lesser case, but
They could have won
case.
this and then lost the double homicide and then got a similar like overall sentencing scheme.
Yeah, I saw Mavka said, "Does anyone facing death ever get bond?" Very rarely, but we're in very rare territory here.
And you're reminding me, this is an 8 out of 12 case for now. By the time this goes to trial, Florida could change the law like 3 more times because Florida's been ping-ponging between the unanimous versus just 8 out of 12 jurors for the sentencing phase of a death penalty case.
I forgot about that.
So,
Yeah,
but because this is taking like a million years, the case law could change.
So I can't see them giving him bond. I would have agreed until the last bond hearing, where I think Fine was seriously considering bond, and then his lawyers showed up. I can't explain what they did without using bad language. They dropped the ball. They never actually had the ball. They never picked up the ball. But if they had, they would have also dropped the ball. They just completely failed in every sense. It was terrible. And then their motion for reconsideration was even worse. I think it was like an insult to Fine because I think he was seriously considering it just based on how long the case has taken and the games the state's been playing.
And guys, I highly recommend if you go back and do you have a playlist, like a designated playlist for YNW Melly stuff? If you don't, go to Hal's channel and use the search to look up his videos on, I think you put Raven Liberty in the title of some of them, right? Or Liberty, the word Liberty. Just search his old read-throughs of the bond and reconsideration motions. Thorough analysis and a good time, I would say, going through those old streams. They say here his release will allow him to fully and meaningfully participate in preparing his defense in the forthcoming proceedings, which we intend to litigate vigorously. And now this is critical, not only has he been in custody, but he's been in solitary, he's been restricted from speaking with people, so not very helpful. It's not a great position to be in when you have 2 trials, 2 cases to be preparing a defense for. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, they never picked up the ball, but exactly. That's a better way of saying what I tried to say.
There we go. The Airbud, another it's like a parallel to the Airbud logic thing you came up with. The airball.
Oh, that's good. Melly's been, yeah, I think, yeah, exactly. The defense had a golden opportunity. This is Aaron. Melly had been incarcerated far too long. The state's repeated delays and misconduct were aggravating fine. Yeah, he was not happy, and then the defense just wasted the opportunity by doing this much of the same stuff the prosecution had done. And Fine, I feel like Fine was subtly hinting at Melly that he should fire his lawyers at a few different times. I think he's going to look favorably upon if finally. I'm sure that they'll come with a competent bond motion. Um, I think he'd seriously consider it. Will the trial date be moved up? No, it won't. So,
I would still like him to see, I would like to see him file a motion, like renewing a request for a speedy trial. Like, just call the state's bluff, put him to the fire. Like, are they going to do the same thing with this case? So whether somehow, renewed speedy trial, earlier trial data set, or we wait all the way until 2027, are we going to have these the cusp of the trial, last minute issues with defense motions? And to me, that's where you see the weaknesses in the case, when the state is freaking out about something. If you did not see that January 5th hearing, I highly recommend watching it. It was really hard to hear, but you could still catch. And then obviously now there's closed captions available to help with the understanding. Just the state did not seem to be standing confidently now that they had different attorneys arguing.
yeah, and like I said, finally, I wouldn't be surprised if we brought in a third lawyer or a fourth lawyer, to really pour on the motions. I assume they're going to relitigate some stuff. I haven't looked at the case in a while. I know a lot of the stuff's already been litigated. Yeah, that was
Cool
that was wild. I remember that.
Love that. So Ashley says, hey, the appellant judges did ask why such a broad scope with a limited time period the crime occurred. So any lyric you've ever written, any text you've ever sent ever, we're going to find a way to say it applies. And again, I think that's the same weakness with looking at some of these car payments. Okay, so I'm supposed to just make the leap that because somebody is paying for a car, they're buying a car, and they list somebody as their manager, that this is supposed to be some, like, shush your mouth? Like, then what am I going to do about, where is the line? Where is the line? Hold on. Like, what about this part? This is important. There's more going on. There's more to this relationship than something that I don't want you telling anybody. Like,
don't tell anybody that ever again.
Like,
just that's not. Don't talk with your homies about that,
or make them relay it. So his homie had to read this over a phone call on a recorded jail call.
Oh man, he's wild.
So read the paper. What does it say? Do I have to say it? Someone's going to be asked about this on the stand. Like, some detective. Was this Polo that listened to this specific call?
I'm sure it was.
They have Polo get up there and read this. Oh,
yeah,
man.
You're right. I wouldn't even go down this path at all. This consciousness of guilt stuff.
It's going to look, I think it's going to look like a side story. So, which isn't going to matter if you have jurors that are like, this is all crazy. I think it all points to guilt. But the ones that would be deliberating, trying to make sense of things, they'd be like, you know what? But this wasn't really, there's so many other explanations for this. It's not weird that somebody uses a nickname. Like, is Rihanna really speaking in code? Why did they put names on the reference sheet for this car if they were trying to disguise what they were doing? Like, it's just too easy to figure out. It's too easy to discuss and come up with reasons that this seems like the opposite of trying to hide something. So, well, that's what I've got on this.
Yep.
And again, I'm more interested in this than I was because I'm excited to see Carrie. I'm not trying to undercut everybody's favorite guy, Drew Findling. But I think I'm a Carrie fan. I think I'm a Carrie fan.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious if you can get Dirk and Melly out in the same year. I think Brian Steele will have a challenger for the
Oh
the
my
rap lawyer of the
gosh.
year. Also,
The
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 Georgia
training
Defense
gyms in
Bar,
Pokemon.
yeah, the Georgia Defense Bar is getting kind of they're kind of taking over.
Well, no one wants to be on the
Yeah,
prosecutor side, especially now that they have a prosecutor commission, a review, a disciplinary council or whatever, POC.
yeah. What happened?
The prosecuting attorneys something. They
Oh,
started like something that basically audits and watchdogs prosecutors in Georgia. So
okay.
now nobody wants to be a prosecutor. They all want to be
Ooh,
defense attorneys.
what do you predict happens next? Does the case go to trial?
Oh, they're not. I don't think they're going to let go of the murder trial. I don't see that happening. I just don't see them not trying that case. How they
Yeah.
decide to try it is, I'll wait to see. Um,
Like, do we want to do it well or do we want to do it our way?
yeah. So, and Ashley, speaking about Carrie here in front of the appeals court, says she was awesome arguing the law. The judges were so tuned in. And guys, speaking of Brian Steele and Georgia defense attorneys, Jim this morning, because there was no YNW Melly hearing, listened to all three of the cases that were argued in front of the Georgia Supreme Court. One of them was argued by Brian Steele. We
Yeah,
also
they're
had
really
a
good.
we had a case about intoxication and whether that changes or how to apply
Yeah.
the laws relating to something being like a forced sexual assault just because somebody's intoxicated. And the caption, the name on the case was Booze.
Yes, yes, it was. That was
Like what are the odds? What are
the
the
oh
odds?
god, the presidential case was something like that too. It was another like name like that. It was another drinking related name. I can't remember what it was. But
Mr.
that case was
Bourbon.
really interesting. It was kind of like the facts are kind of gross, so you know, be prepared
Yeah.
for that. If you don't want to listen to it, I get it.
That was the first
Um,
one. So skip till you see Brian Steele because he starts off the arguments for his case. Brian
yeah,
Steele was a nexus argument for criminal street gang activity, and
that was
Kevin Armstrong was arguing for the state.
so stupid. Like he should have just Armstrong should have just stipulated that they were wrong. As soon as he saw the question from the Supreme Court's question that they wanted the parties to argue was basically like, how dare you bring something this stupid into our court? And they went ahead and argued it anyway. It was the jury instruction was very clearly wrong, but Fulton County tried to decide it anyway. It was a really interesting case. Um, Basically, the way Judge McBurney read the charging instructions for the Gang Act violation was that all the state had to prove was that somebody was in a gang and committed a crime of the type that a gang commits, as opposed to being in furtherance of the gang, which are two
Which
very
sort
different
of
things.
makes it like group like wholesale character evidence or
Yeah,
wholesale prior acts
yeah, for sure.
via extension of somebody that you're alleged to be an associate with, right? Because I bet that was that issue too. Like, we'll just say this person's part of the gang, and then this person does this thing, and it's consistent with what you're doing. And because we're saying you're in a gang, now you have like this layered reach of an argument to make it work.
I'm sorry. I was just thinking of DK. Was it DK who was like, "Do I run around robbing people saying I'm a blood? I'm a blood"?
Oh yeah, yelling out the car device and now it's like, this is for YSL.
Oh man. Yeah, the third case was also really interesting. It was Xavier Gibson. It was his second. GSU Grinding tweeted about this case too.
Oh
His
yeah, this is the just conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Yeah, you explain it. You'll do it better.
So it's the second habeas. So there's like the underlying murder happened 35 years ago. So this has been being litigated for 35 years. But the current issue is that his defense lawyer was, at the time he was a defense lawyer, he was also he was like a special acting attorney general working with the Department of Transportation. So he had the state of Georgia as a client at the same time he was defending somebody against the state of Georgia's, in a prosecution. So it was, I would say, a conflict of interest to be representing both the state of Georgia and defending somebody from the state of Georgia. And there's at least some evidence that he withdrew, what were they, like subpoenas or something to the Georgia Bureau of Investigation after the state attorney general, um, pushed back on the subpoenas, tried to quash the subpoenas. So there's at least some evidence of actual, conflict of interest. And I mean, to me, like, it's a simple case. Just if you're representing the state, you can't also be representing a defendant without disclosing to the defendant that you have that conflict. But we'll see if that's the law.
Good old conflict case. And there
It's
was,
really interesting.
I think when you had mentioned that case was set for oral arguments, that was right after I'd seen the news that Judge McBurney, in like a civil matter that came before him, can the board that helps advocate or not advocate for capital punishment in Georgia, they help like advise on policy for capital punishment. Two of the board members are victims advocates, and Judge McBurney had ruled that, hey, they might have to revisit their participation in capital cases because it could be something that deprives the defendant whenever there's an application of such policy. It could end up depriving, it could be a conflict as far as constitutional rights for the accused.
Yep.
So, yeah, McBurney's a busy guy.
Yeah. Oh, we got the March case announcements for the Supreme Court too. We have another the one I told you about, the what's her face, the Brian Steele and Andrew Fleshman one. But then there's also state of Georgia versus like the federal public defenders. I have no idea what that's about, but it definitely caught my eye. So
oh, did they oh wait, why don't I see it?
Oh, it's not up there. If you go to oral argument calendar.
Oh.
And then March.
Okay, so they just didn't put the hyperlink in both places. Good site mapping. All right, so there we go. So Payne, oh, that's Hannah Payne, I think. And then Walker v. State, and then there you go. So they haven't posted those briefs quite yet. Like the quick links that they usually put right here.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's where they put them, right?
Yep.
So when those come up, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I'm already ahead of myself, but
well, so March 18th, I think Jim's gonna be live. So so you guys know. Just so you guys know. And YP says, what's the movie that's used to train Georgia police officers on gangs? The Detective Dennis training, Boys in the Hood. He also mentioned a few different magazines.
Man, there is a good chance that he's going to be, the Darren Mills thing is starting to get close to circling back around.
And he'd be on the stand.
He as an expert on lyrics.
And please stream that.
Oh, I will if I can.
What judge is that? What's the trial court judge?
I think it'll have to be assigned to somebody new. I think it was somebody who's gone now. I'm not positive about that. But yeah, and the lawyers in that case are going to be really, really good lawyers. So it'll be fun. It'll be like Steele, Kyle Winchester, and I can't remember who the third one is. But I've talked to some of the guys. They're really excited about getting another chance in the case.
Would you be insulted if somebody was like Brian Steele, Kyle Winchester, and I can't remember, and then the other name is Jim, and they couldn't remember your name?
Yeah, of course. I'm petty about everything.
Oh, what a name to get lost in, having those two against you. And then I think one last thing, something a long time ago that we talked about, the old sheriff shooting where Don Samuel and young Brian Steele were on the case. Yeah. We should plan a time to do a rewatch, at least of Brian Steele's opening arguments.
The sheriff one,
when he still had he was a brunette, or whatever you'd call a guy with a brown hair.
what's up with the Stop Cop City RICO? The RICO got dismissed, I believe, for everybody, if I'm not mistaken, on jurisdictional grounds. I think there are like 2 or 3 defendants that still have charges.
The arson.
Yeah, like I think maybe like a terrorism charge or something, because the AG does have jurisdiction over those counts, jurisdiction to charge those counts. And I'm really excited because, like, look, there's so much more dumb stuff that we didn't even get to in that case. Like, I wasn't even aware of the jurisdiction dumb stuff, but like the indictment dumb stuff, we still have, and I'm so excited about the indictment stuff because I'm a cool person with, you know, fun hobbies. But
Yeah,
like
he has streams about this stuff on his reading the Cop City indictment on his
the
channel. I
bad
think you
political
read it twice.
paper,
Didn't you read it twice?
you don't, you know, what, we don't need to count how many times I read it. Yes, I did. Aaron says there are 56 motions and 4 were heard before the indictment was, like, the one I'm really excited about is the one with the grand juror names being left off. Because for those of you who don't know, they forgot to put the grand juror names on the grand jury indictment. And I just think that's the funniest thing to ever happen. Because that's like that's what you need. You need the grand jurors. That's like the whole thing.
uh,
It's like having a basketball game without basketball players. Like,
oh,
what?
not the Air Bud.
I didn't even think about that. I have a lot of basketball related analogies, I guess. But yeah, the indictment's a mess. It's talking about communism and anarchy and, oh my goodness.
That was a good one. Guys, so my plan is to do a redirect over to Ian Runkle's stream,
Ooh,
which
yeah.
I was planning to use to catch up on the remaining whatever in the Uvalde trial. So I had heard from Trenton. I don't know if Trenton's still in the chat. But there was a stipulation that there was an expert that did a voice ID, and the state had to stipulate today that they got that voice ID wrong, that their expert that testified to IDing a voice, which is important for the timeline, got it wrong. So I think today was a great day for the prosecution in the Uvalde case. So Runkle's going to be recapping that. I'm excited to hear what that's all about. Yes, Aaron. Yes, Aaron. Please follow us over there and hear Runkle's summary of it. So that, you guys, is, I will say, of course, that is a sad, the underlying event, the Uvalde school shooting. It's not for everybody to listen to. So, guard your well-being if you don't want to come over and listen to anything surrounding that type of tragedy. But the prosecution itself, it just seems like a dog and pony show where they're just putting one guy on trial for something, and he might have actually been someone that was helping kids get out of the building and get to medical aid sooner.
Yeah, it seems like he was one of 3 people that actually did stuff, which was...
I'm confused, and I feel like the few minutes that I haven't been able to watch in full, like, maybe I've got to be missing something. But, we've also got Flesh of the Gods, the source, in the chat. Good to see you. Also just covered the most recent Michael Fisher, the Marcy prison correction officers series of trials, where, if you guys missed the news, after closings, jury starts deliberating. They have a few jury questions. They're like, what if another juror is trying to cause a mistrial? They end up hanging. And instead of just letting it end like that, the state and the defendant came to an agreement. Plea deal, 6 months in custody, but it seems like they're going to be out and about until appeals are over. But yeah, 6 months. 6 months for Michael Fisher, one of the CEOs. That's the guy that was seen in the video smiling. So if you want to watch those closing arguments, Flesh of the Gods just did a stream on that on Friday night, I think it was. So that was interesting as well. There is another correction officer death in a prison, the Mid-State facility in New York. That first trial for the guy charged with murder is starting in March. and then his co-defendants are severed and will have their own trials later in the year. So yeah, 6 months maybe. 6 months maybe. So there's that. Tons of cases so far this year. Like a lot of stuff going on. And then Aaron also says the initial injunction for State of Georgia v. Federal Public Defenders was filed May 9th,
Oh
2022.
God.
So the day of the YSL indictment. Oh my goodness.
One of my favorite lawyers is Anna Arsenault. I know she's one of the attorneys listed for the federal defenders. She's the one that did that habeas that we were supposed to look at like 6 months ago. The one that neither of us got to. She wrote that one. She's a really good lawyer. I'm excited to
Okay,
see
we
if she
should
has
do
some
it.
movements.
We should do it. Just a random throwback.
Yeah. May 9th, 2022.
Yeah,
There were so
a
many
date that we
crimes
all know
committed that
well.
day. Just not by any of the defendants.
Well, good times. All right, Jim, any closing thoughts before we go over to Runkles?
Let me see. That ice cream stuff was super awkward.
Forced to read it over a jail call.
It's a good thing that he's a rapper because he has no game. This is his only chance. Good for him.
Well, that was a good closing thought. So
Yep.
with that, you guys, this is going to redirect over to Ian Runkle. Again, the subject matter is a trial relating to a school shooting, just as a forewarning. So if it's not your cup of tea, totally understand. Thanks for hanging out tonight. See you guys maybe over there or wherever we run into you in the chat. And Jim, thanks for popping on just spontaneously. Thank you so much.
Talk to
All
you
right,
guys
bye
soon.
everybody.